Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Sodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Varivrajagacharya Asta Saraswati Sri Maharaj Divine Grace Abhay Charana Arvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Sri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Nitai Gaura Premanande All glories to the Sum of the Bodhis All glories to the Sum of the Devotees All glories to the Sum of the Bodhis All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padasabhadale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Vishesha Shunyavadi Pastachari Sutarini Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8, entitled Prayers of Queen Kunti and Parikshit Saved. Text number 33. Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Bhyagat Ajas Tvam Asya Kshemaya Vadhaya Cha Suradvisham Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Bhyagat Ajastang Asya Kshemaya Vadaya Cha Suradvisham Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Bhyagat Ajastang Asya Kshemaya Vadaya Cha Suradvisham Apare Vasudevasya Vasudevasya Jivakyam Yachito Bhagat Ajastam Asyam Ladies, Apare others Vasudevasya of Vasudev Devakyam of Devaki Yachitaha being prayed for Abhyagat took birth Ajaha unborn Tvam you are Asya of him Kshemaya for the good Vadaya for the purpose of killing Cha and Suradvisham of those who are envious of the demigods. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Please repeat. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Purport. It is also said that Vasudeva and Devaki, in their previous birth, as Sutapa and Prishni, underwent a severe type of penance to get the Lord as their son. And as a result of such austerities, the Lord appeared as their son. It is already declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears for the welfare of all people of the world and to vanquish the asuras, or the materialistic atheists. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmanitam Jena Tasmai Sri-Gurave Namah Ugam Gurudeva Achalam Pangam Gayate Girimet Kipadam Mande Siguram Dinatanam. Translation again. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Srila Prabhupada begins here by pointing out that that Suttapa and Prishni in their previous births had performed severe austerities. So it's not easy to get the personality of Godhead as one's son. The Bhagavatam explains how Suttapa and Prishni, they were asked by Lord Brahma, Suttapa being one of the progenitors, they were asked to create progeny in the world. So their first activity was to begin to engage in penance. The Bhagavatam describes how for some, was it 12,000 celestial years, they engaged in all sorts of austerities, in pranayam and postures and eating only leaves, and then eventually just air, subsisting like that for 12,000 celestial years is quite a long period of time for, at least in our sphere. For the celestial region, the demigods, 12,000 years is really not that long when you consider that they live for tens of thousands of years. So it's really a short period of time in that regard. But for us, unimaginable how somebody could engage in austerities like that for such a long period of time, controlling their breathing, controlling their eating, and focusing on the Lord within the heart. So the Vedic system is so nice that there is a process by which one can create a good progeny, which is vital for human society. The Vedic system is now is providing this varna or garbhadhana sanskara service or engagement by which again one produces good progeny, which is vital for a good society. We see in the present age that because of a lack of regulation, because the garbhadhana sanskara austerity is to control the senses and purify oneself. It's a necessary purificatory ceremony for human society. But again, because in the modern age there's no real idea of that, how to purify oneself, other than maybe sometimes taking a bath. Sankirtan devotees have experiences that when they go out on Sankirtan and you go into, I remember going into airports in the restroom, and people do whatever they do in the restroom, and then they go straight out, right? And then the Sankirtan devotee has to approach that person, and you end up shaking their hands or doing whatever. It's in the back of your mind you're thinking, oh my gosh, what did I just do? So there's no idea, no sense of purification in the present age. Instead, people are engaging in all sorts of terrible activities, and as a result, the populace reflects it. You see how the general populace are engaged in all sorts of terrible activities, and there's no sense of self-control. There's no sense of responsibility, and as a result, there's no sense of religiosity. There's no lack of mode of goodness in the world. Instead, people are again engaged in all sorts of just abominable activities. So, whenever this happens, the Lord, as He explains in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata, Krishna has to again appear to, whenever there's a decline in these religious practices and a rise in irreligious activity, the Lord has to appear. He has to appear to right the situation. And He comes in various forms, as the Brahma Samhita explains, Ramadi Murti Shukalani Amina Tishtan. Krishna comes in so many wonderful incarnations. Lord Ram and Shringha, Varaha, Vamana, all these wonderful appearances of the Lord are there to again reestablish those religious principles and at least give some opportunity, give some direction when there's lack of. The world is rampant with cheaters and liars, imposters. And their only aim is to asangskrita kriya hina rajasatam savrita. The Bhagavatam predicts, it's no surprise that the leaders of the world nowadays, their only interest is exploiting people for their own gratification. So all of this is predicted. It's no mystery for the devotee. It's not a surprise that when terrible things happen in the world, there's a reason for it. The reason being that, again, people are engaged in so many dastardly activities. So the Lord has to come and, again, reestablish those principles. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The Lord has to come to, again, give some guidance. And therefore He appears in these wonderful incarnations, these wonderful appearances, which are not just ordinary. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, divyam, they're transcendental. When Krishna appears in this world, they're not just somebody's imagination or just some yogic, some teeny yogic power that some person may exhibit and we're to accept them. No. When Krishna comes in these wonderful forms, they're transcendental in every way. They're supremely attractive, and they engage in wonderful pastimes, all for the purpose of, Srila Prabhupada explains, to attract the living beings, so that we can become engaged or disengaged with this material world. Because right now, for the most part, we're overcome by the material energy, and people are not so interested in spiritual activities. So the Lord has to come in these various forms and exhibit incredible pastimes, incredible forms that are supremely attractive and engaged in transcendental pastimes. But the materialists, this is too difficult to comprehend, too difficult to accept. Asatyam pratistam te jagaradhuranishwaram. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that their mentality is there's no God, there's nothing controlling this, it's all some sort of accident, it's unreal, it's simply meant for our gratification. And as a result, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, that instead of engaging in activities which are meant to elevate us, pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidurasara, these sinful people are engaged in all sorts of activities which are just meant for the ruination of society. They don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. And they just act according to their whims. Eat whatever they want, sleep whenever they... It's just basically degraded animal life. Although they may be in a human form, it's simply a degraded life. And instead of being concerned about the goal of life, they're instead completely lost in themselves. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, they're lost in themselves. And you can see it practically. People nowadays in the greater society are totally infatuated by them, by their own activities. And there's no regard for other suffering or other living entities for that matter, what to speak of those who may be suffering. No, there's no consideration. And instead they're simply engaged in horrible, unbeneficial activities. And it doesn't serve any purpose. Instead, it's all about becoming more and more entangled in the material world. So these people, such careless lives, they may deride the personality of Godhead, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that such fools and rascals, they deride Krishna when he appears in these wonderful forms. But the reality is that Krishna is so so attractive. He's so beyond our mundane ideas that the materialists are thinking, well, how is it that God can appear? Just as in this wonderful pastime here, Srila Prabhupada touches upon it, Vasudeva and Devaki, how they become the father and mother of the personality of Godhead. The materialists, how is it that God can appear in a human form? Or how is it that God can appear in a beautiful boar form, or in a beautiful Nrsingadev form? It's inconceivable. It's beyond their senses. So they may deride Krishna when he appears, and they may speculate all they like, but the fact is that Krishna can appear in so many wonderful forms, and he can even appear as the son of his devotees. What is that wonderful verse? Anur aniyam mahato mahiyan. Krishna can become the smallest, but yet he can become the greatest. So how is it that God can do that? That God can appear in all of these wonderful forms. He can become the smallest and be situated within the heart of all living beings. Not that he's just in the heart of the man and woman, but he's in the heart of all living beings. And even though there may be so many people out there who are engaged in commendable works, they're trying to save the suffering babies in this place or that place, or they're going to. The other day, I went with my daughter to an animal rights vigil that she goes to regularly, and it's at Farmer John's slaughterhouse. And we went at 9 o'clock in the evening. So from 9 to 12, there's certain activists, animal rights people, who go there and they try to show a little bit of compassion, or whatever compassion these particular animals have ever seen in their lives. These trucks roll in by the dozens, and they're full of pigs. And every evening they bring in nearly 5,000 animals. And the trucks roll along the street. And there on the side of the street are these nice people of all ages, young, old, whatever they may be even movie stars. There was some movie star out there the other night, some person by the name of Phoenix something. I don't remember his name. Joaquin Phoenix. So he was out there also. And they stand along the road with their signs, and the trucks come along, and they park for a moment or two, literally 2 minutes. And the activists go along the truck. If you've ever seen these vehicles, they're quite long, and they have little holes in them where the animal can breathe. They're being transported from long distances, and when the truck stops, they come up to it with a little water sprayer, and they spray the holes, and the pigs will come up to the edge of it, and they'll try to drink the water. So we try to make sure that the water is offered, of course. So they come up, and they're struggling to get some water, and they're not very old. They're 1 or 2 years old. You can see that they're young animals, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens of them, hundreds and hundreds, and they're there for 2 minutes. They try to give them some sort of compassion, some sort of relief, whatever they may have, probably more than they've ever experienced in their short lives. And then they're taken off around the corner, and you can hear in the background how they're unloading the animals. and then a few minutes later, the truck comes out empty. And then, their fate is sealed. So we may try to help these suffering conditions of humans or animals, and it's certainly commendable. It's certainly beneficial. But unless they understand, unless they're given the opportunity for devotional life, some spiritual contact, whether it be a chanting to them, because sometimes the devotees who are there, my wife and Raymuna, and they may chant to the animals, and they're there with their eyes are wide open, they're totally frightened, they don't know what's going on, where am I off to? And the next moment, they're taken, their throats are slit. So we're in a world, in a society which is totally backwards. It's totally misguided, and people are engaged in so many terrible activities. So the Lord has to come, and He has to right the situation, as Prabhupada explains here. He appears for the welfare of all people of the world, and to vanquish the asuras, or the materialistic atheists. So He has to appear. He's in the heart of all living beings, no doubt. Krishna is there. Paramatmeji chap yukto dehi smin purushak para. Krishna is there in the heart of all living beings, and He's directing their wanderings. He's the overseer and permitter. He's certainly there. He's in the heart of all living beings because they're His children, as Krishna says, isn't it? Aham bija prajapita. Krishna is the father of all living beings, and they're all meant to be engaged in His devotional service. But how can they understand it? Only if they get the mercy. Prasada le sanu, what is that? Prasada le sanu grahita evahi. If they get a tiny little bit of mercy, just a fraction, just one simple little drop of Krishna's mercy, that they can understand what, so that they can eventually understand what is this madness all for? What is the reason for it? Of course, the materialists are thinking that it's just some accident. It just happens. We'll do better. We'll enact some laws, and we'll give people some charity or something, and then we'll just go about our enjoying ways. But this is obviously not the purpose, and this is not the end result. Instead, one has to take up the process of devotional life. In previous yugas, it's interesting how Srila Prabhupada points this out, how in the previous yuga, Suttapa and Prishni were engaged in austerities. And that was the means to attract the mercy of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada comments in that section of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam that if we want to attract Krishna, the personality of Godhead, to this world, then one can engage in those sort of penances. But if we want to go back to Godhead, if we want to go back to the personality of Godhead, to the Supreme Lord, and be there in His abode, then one has to learn to understand Him and learn to love Him. That is the difference. We're not interested in just staying here. Suttapa and Prishni and Suttapa wanted to engage in Grihastha life. So they engaged in their married relationship, and the Lord came and benedicted them. But that again took so many thousands of years, and eventually they became purified. But Srila Prabhupada points out that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has bypassed or made it so much easier by coming himself and showing that the real purpose or the real goal, what is that? Prema Pumartha Mahan. It's to develop the pure love of God so that we can go back to Godhead. That is the real meaning of austerity and real purpose. And Srila Prabhupada explains that one should take advantage of this opportunity. It's actually benediction moon. Krishna is so kind that he's kind here to Vasudeva and Devaki, but he's also he's become even more merciful in this Kali Yuga, in this form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and making it so much easier for one to get out of this dark world. I was just again thinking of this slaughterhouse. It's a dark, dingy place, and they do it at night, right? They don't do it in the daytime. It's done at night, and the animals are taken in, and they're completely terrified. This whole material world is a dark, terrifying place, and people are just missing such a great opportunity. So Krishna has come in this wonderful form of Chaitanya to make it so much easier, and we should take advantage of it. And that's been again condensed or simplified simply in this chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I have to run to the airport. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.